This is CBC Here and Now.
I'm going to run for mayor.
Andy Wells wants his old job back.
Roundabouts.
Within 6 months, people say, wow, these are the best things ever.
But there's a catch.
Big talent from the big land. Brooklyn Wolfrey attends the World Dwarf Games.
And here in the Weather Center, tracking a system that is moving in at a fair clip, but will drop a quick 10 to 20 plus millimeters, especially over eastern Newfoundland. We'll talk about that coming up.
Well, a familiar face wants to reclaim the mayor's chair in St. John's in this fall's municipal election.
Yeah, and perhaps what was probably one of the worst kept secrets in town, Andy Wells officially announced today that he wants the mayor's job. It's a position that he already had from 1997 until 2008.
Yes, surrounded by coffee-drinking friends this morning, he took aim at the current council and made promises things will change at City Hall. Here and Now's Jeremy Eaton was there.
He did it in a unique setting, the Tim Hortons in Churchill Square, where he's held court for the past decade. Surrounded by tea and coffee-sipping supporters, Andy Wells joked his way into the mayor's race.
Where else would it be a better place to announce that I'm not going to run for mayor? Actually, I'm going to run for mayor.
Wells picked up the tab for all the coffee bought here this morning before promising to voters that excessive spending at City Hall has got to stop. Wells is preaching openness and transparency.
There will be no taxpayers' dollars spent at private meetings. The insiders will be chased out of City Hall, and taxpayers can pick up the paper if they're interested or go on social media and see how their money is going to be spent.
Wells, known for being outspoken from his days in council, spoke from notes and answered questions for more than 30 minutes. A point he repeated was rolling back tax increases from 2016, something he says, if elected, he will make happen.
Municipal taxes have gone up in this city over the past 5 or 6 years to an astronomical rate, and I believe that that is unacceptable and unfair.
His message getting through to those on hand this morning.
Huge supporter of Andy, and I think it's important that we get somebody who's a voice for the public, you know, for the taxpayers. It's been too long now that we've been going with increased taxes, as he just mentioned, and I think it's about time that he got back in the running.
But it wouldn't be an Andy Wells media event without some hard-hitting comments towards the council and staff he wants to lead at City Hall.
And I use the word corruption deliberately because I believe a lot of these expenditures were fundamentally corrupt. They were a violation of the city's bylaws, our freedom of information bylaw, our severance policy bylaw.
As for health issues, Wells, who is in his 70s, is quick to point out that he's had some issues in the past, but he hits the gym 4 times a week and can do 200 push-ups and 150 crunches. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
As you might expect, there is no shortage of reaction to Wells' decision to run. One of the more outspoken critics of the current city council is business operator and former member of Great Big Sea, Bob Hallett. Jeremy spoke with him after Wells' announcement.
Well, I'm sure there's lots of things I disagree with Andy Wells on, but I think when it comes to taxation, he's on the right road. I mean, taxes increased by almost 30% in a 4-year period. And if you drive around the city, it doesn't feel 30% better. It's not like, wow, look at these great sidewalks. And instead, people are zigzagging around potholes and wondering why the garbage collection is so bad and the snow clearing is so awful and, you know, why we can't fix the parks and things like that. And, you know, you have to wonder what happened to our money. And I think we know where it went. It went to employees. And Andy Wells is trying to, you know, look after the taxpayer. And I think in that stage, I agree with him. I think, you know, what's happened here has been wrong, and we need to turn the clock back.
Rumor has it that he approached you to run. Is that correct? Is that something you think about doing?
Well, I mean, you know, it's not like you run as a team. You know, it's not like there's a mayor and a vice mayor. But I mean, I've talked to a lot of people about municipal politics and running in the last couple of years. I'm not running. I mean, I've run 3 businesses by myself, and I have small kids. I'm halfway through an MBA. I work on 2 different musicals, and I play in a couple of bands. So the thought of somehow trying to run for a political office in the middle of all that is insane. But, you know, I'm watching. Like, I've seen an awful lot of stupidity out of this council. I've seen a lot of really, you know, clubby secrecy. I've seen them pretend that things are getting better when plainly they're not. And, you know, I want to see them change.
Well, since leaving politics 9 years ago, Wells held the job of chair and CEO of the Public Utilities Board. Now, that changed in June. He was suspended from the job after government ordered an investigation into some controversial comments Wells made. Well, today, the province dropped that investigation and announced that Wells officially resigned from the job on Friday past.
Andy Wells certainly didn't pull any punches while he was on council, and he definitely spoke his mind.
Yes, absolutely. Some people say at best he was controversial, at worst offensive. Here's a bit of a flashback. Here he is speaking about former Deputy Mayor Shani Duff.
You tell her to F off?
I can't recall now. I mean, I certainly thought it if I didn't.
You made the remark to me that my grave was one of the ones you would like to piss on.
It was in response to your comment about my person.
While from municipal to provincial politics, there's a new speaker in the House of Assembly.
Claire, Mr. Perry Trimper, member for the district of Lake Melville, elected as speaker for the remainder.
Lake Melville MHA Perry Trimper was elected today to preside over the House. He was the Premier's choice for the job, but faced a challenge from fellow Liberal MHA Pam Parsons. She would have been the first female speaker, which earned her the backing of 2 young Liberal organizations. Today, Perry Trimper addressed that issue.
And I think we need to encourage youth to ascend to all levels of government, whether it be federal, provincial, or municipal, or other aspects of leadership. There's no reason why, because of your gender, you should be held back, nor should you feel that you need to be held back. So I look forward to doing what I can to support that cause.
Now, the original plan was for the House of Assembly to close after electing a speaker, but the opposition wanted the regular question period, and the government agreed. Afterwards, the Premier says he wasn't impressed by the questions.
If you looked at his questions, he deliberately left out some of the startling facts that are impacting this province, like the financial situation, the change of government, like Muskrat Falls as an example. He knew the answer on the forensic audit as an example. These are questions that's been answered. We didn't need Paul Davis standing up to the day showboating. It was about a political opportunity for the leader of the opposition. Clearly, that's what this was all about.
A woman is dead after a highway crash involving several motorcycles on the Northern Peninsula. The accident happened yesterday on Route 430 near Wiltondale. The motorbikes were traveling south when a car coming in the opposite direction crossed into their lane. The woman who died was 45 years old. The 2 other motorcycle riders and the driver and passenger in the car were taken to hospital with injuries.
There are several roundabouts in St. John's, including this one by the airport, but the city is getting on board with the idea in a bigger way. Prince Philip Drive in St. John's is in for a major overhaul over the next few years. Roundabouts are being planned for 3 major intersections near Memorial University. Many people are still nervous about using roundabouts, but traffic safety instructor Rudy Singleton applauds the new plan.
I'm all for them. Now, people might say, well, why? Well, I just think it expedites the flow of traffic. But they won't work without proper signage and education. They're the 2 key components.
A St. John's man has been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for weapons offenses stemming from a police sting operation. But all of the charges against Christopher Shaw in connection with 2 shootings in St. John's have been dropped. Here now's Glenn Payette reports.
34-year-old Christopher Shaw and 38-year-old Jason Marsh were charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, and more for 2 shootings in St. John's in September and November of 2013. In one shooting, a man on Boyle Street took a shotgun blast to the chest. In the other, a man in Williams Heights was hit 3 times with .22 caliber bullets. Marsh has taken responsibility for both shootings and says he acted alone. All of the charges against Shaw in connection with the shootings were dropped, but he hasn't gotten away scot-free. The RNC had received information that Marsh was involved in the incidents but had no hard evidence, so the police set up a sting operation. That led them to Shaw. Undercover police officers asked Shaw to get them a gun. Thinking he was dealing with the Hells Angels, Shaw got them a .357 Magnum handgun and 40 rounds of ammunition. In May, he pleaded guilty to trafficking in a restricted weapon and other charges, and today was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Marsh was also supposed to have a sentencing hearing today, but it's been rescheduled to the end of October. Glenn Payette, CBC News, St. John's.
A 9-year-old girl from Rigolette is involved in an international competition this week. Brooklyn Wolfrey is at the World Dwarf Games in Guelph, Ontario. She performed a drum dance at the event's opening ceremonies on Friday, but before she left for the games, Brooklyn and her mom spoke with the CBC's Bailey White.
How old were you the first time you ever drum danced?
I think I was like 3.
That song that you sang, what was that about?
It was about a Inukshuk.
Yeah?
Yeah. An Inukshuk that's hiding from children.
Hiding from children?
Yeah, they're playing hide and seek.
Oh. So you sang all in Inuktitut?
Yeah.
So tell me where you're heading.
I'm heading to Guelph for Little People Dwarf Games.
So there's going to be people from all over the world?
Yeah.
Have you ever been there before?
No.
But I heard that you were at the Canada Games once.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was fun. I got to meet little people like me.
Yeah? Is it fun to be around other little people?
Yeah.
Yeah. How come?
Because there's little people like me and I guess like play like them. Yeah.
So what are you most looking forward to in Guelph? What's going to be the best part?
I say like the swimming pools and that.
Yeah?
Because Rigolette doesn't have a pool.
Right. So how do you prepare for swimming if Rigolette doesn't have a pool?
We swim in a lake.
You do?
Yeah, it's really cold though.
Are there other little people in Rigolette?
No.
You're the only one?
Yeah.
What's it like as a mom when you're watching her out there competing?
It makes me proud and is happy that she can do something that is up to her level with children her size, because most of the time she's playing like floor hockey or ball hockey with kids that are towers over her than older than her.
What's that like for her and for you to meet other families like yours?
It is great because, well, in Rigolette there's no one else that's a dwarf like Brooklyn. So once she gets to meet other people like her, she feels more comfortable and more at home, and it gives her like a feeling that she is not alone.
Oh, that's so nice. Congratulations to Brooklyn. It sounds like it's going to be such a great experience.
Absolutely, and lots of different events at the games, including things like badminton, powerlifting, soccer. So they run until August 12th, so still a few more days for the games.
Excellent. We'll have more whale video for you in a few minutes. You'll want to see what these orcas toss in the air as they swam through the waters of Trinity Bay.
And still to come, we'll tell you about the buzz in the deep woods of central Newfoundland. Welcome back to Here and Now, bringing in Ryan with a look at the weather. But before we get to the weather, it seems that nobody ever really gets tired of whale videos, especially this time of year.
So true.
And so we've got another one that is pretty spectacular.
Yes, just have a look at this.
Trinity Eco Tours, once again, they've been sending in lots of videos. They captured this video of about 20 orcas swimming and playing and jumping in the waters off Trinity Bay, and the crew watched for about 2 hours before spotting this.
Yep.
Now that is a porpoise being tossed around by one of the orcas. But yeah, we're not sure whether that was a playful toss or a pre-dinner toss.
Yeah,
but
I'm just gonna go with the idea that that porpoise is just fine.
I'm thinking that there's probably an orca mother who's swimming around saying, "Don't play with your foods, kids."
Yeah. Anyway,
Beautiful, though.
Impressive video. You can look that up again on our Facebook page and find it there. So keep that whale video coming. Now, if you are planning to go whale watching or do any kind of outdoor activity tomorrow, especially in the east, it's the afternoon as we have our next system rolling in as we speak. Current conditions right now, have a look at the webcam from Port aux Basques, and you can see there the pavement looking a little on the damp side as we see those first few spits of showers coming in. Temperatures are near 18 degrees, and that is kind of the setup over that southwest coast. Temperatures in the 18-19 degree range, where we have that cloud really building in with those showers. Temperatures right now in the 20 degree range from St. John's to Bonavista, and just 10 degrees. It was a cool one. Nain down through Makkovik today. Happy Valley Goose Bay and Labrador City in the 16-17 degree range. The one thing that did for sure was a lot more noticeable today was that drop in humidity with this fresher air mass that has come in. Certainly we were back down in the pleasant to comfortable. We got rid of that uncomfortable stickiness that had been around for the couple of days prior. Now as we take a look at the satellite and radar picture, this is again the system. Center of the low still well to the south, but the rain ahead of it spreading up across Nova Scotia today, Cape Breton, and as I mentioned just now, rolling in to the southwest coast. Our first low from the last couple of days is spinning up into the Labrador Sea. That has been throwing some scattered showers into the mix across much of Labrador today, from Labrador City across to Happy Valley Goose Bay and down towards the Cartwright region. And this, of course, is our next one that, as I mentioned, rolling up towards the Port au Port right now, Port aux Basques, and stretching now with a few showers possible even across the Burin Peninsula and the coast of bays. That will all march northeastward overnight tonight, and the heaviest rain, as I mentioned, will be the morning hours tomorrow. And I think the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 a.m. time period will be the dampest period for St. John's and the Avalon, where we'll see the potential for the heaviest rainfall. Temperatures to start the day are going to be in that 13 to 14 degree range. Couple of spits still possible in that 7, 8 a.m. time period, but generally clearing out pretty quickly in the early morning hours for you folks along the west coast. Some scattered shower chances at Labrador City back towards Happy Valley Goose Bay, but generally it's pretty quiet tomorrow across Labrador to start the day. Any shower chances clear for Happy Valley Goose Bay and the coast tomorrow. Shower chances, however, will be rolling in to places like Labrador City and Churchill Falls through the day. And as I mentioned, that rain will be clearing out for St. John's and the east tomorrow. After about 10 to 20 millimeters, I think we could see a couple of bullseyes here as projected by the Canadian model. Anywhere from basically Bonavista Bay to the coast of bays and back across the Avalon and the Burin. This is where we have the potential to see a little bit more than 20 millimeters locally, where some of those heaviest downpours move through the region. Temperatures, as I mentioned, near 13 to start. I think we're clearing, if not by lunchtime, then certainly by 1 or 2 p.m. That rain is gone from Metro. We'll see sun and cloud develop pretty quickly in behind, and so it's a pretty solid afternoon shaping up. Winds in from the north for tomorrow, though, so temperatures will basically be capped near 17 degrees. And so it's Twillingate, Grand Falls, Windsor to Burgeo in the morning, where the shower potential, and then clearing from west to east throughout the day. A beautiful day in Burlington on the Bayvert Peninsula. Sean, just for you, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, Sean Majumder paid us a little visit last night. If you haven't checked it out, you should. Facebook.com/Ryan.Snoddon. If you want to check that out, as I mentioned, if you missed it, you really should. Sun and cloud, again, for the West Coast will pretty much be the full meal deal tomorrow. Cloud a little bit dominant early on, but then lots of sun into the afternoon. And there's the forecast for Labrador, looking pretty good. Some morning showers along the coast clearing. It's those showers marching into Lab West with temperatures just near 15 degrees there. We'll talk about your long range right through the weekend with your 7-day trend coming up, Peter.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, one area that could certainly use some of those showers that are headed for here is British Columbia. But it is getting a much-needed jolt in its fight against ongoing wildfires. More than 400 firefighters from different parts of the globe are arriving this week. Their arrival will bring the total number of firefighting personnel in BC to well over 4,000. The help is crucial as places like Kamloops are blanketed with smoke, triggering air quality health warnings. The provincial government declared a state of emergency 1 month ago. Some of the firefighters helping out in BC are from this province. One of them is Stephanie Pinkson. She and 5 other firefighters from here spent 2 weeks on the west coast of the country. Pinkson is back home in Pasadena, and she spoke with Here Now's Colleen Connors.
Tell us, how do you feel now that you're back?
It feels great to be back, for sure. It was an amazing experience, but it feels great to be back home with the family.
I guess it was very grueling work. You're not just there to help, you are in the field. Tell us more about what you were doing every day when you were there.
We were there as a sustained action crew, type 1 sustained action, and what that means basically is mop up. And what mop up means, we're looking for smokes and hot spots, any flare-ups, and we're extinguishing them by whatever means we have.
So you're kind of deep in a forested area and you're looking for hot spots. What's a hot spot look like?
Smoke. That's what we're basically looking for, is smoke. You're most likely going to smell it before you see it. And then we hunt it down from there.
So you were telling me that, you know, there's not always this large accessible amount of water like maybe there would be in Newfoundland and Labrador. So when you come up on this hot spot and with your crew, what do you do?
We dig it up. That will be our first step. We use Pulaski's, shovels. We expose it. And that would be dry mop up. If we have water, then we would apply the water.
It must be such a grueling, kind of physically stressful environment. That's what I picture. Is that what it's like?
It's definitely hard work physically. You know, of course you have to take your breaks in between. You're not running through the fire or anything like that. You're walking the edge and looking for hot spots. You take your time. You have to take your time anyway because you need to have a good look.
So tell me, was there ever a time when you were up there in these very stressful environments? Was there ever a time when you were worried or concerned? I know you're a parent, you know, your kids are back home. So was there ever a time when you were, you know, nervous?
I know that they only put us in a spot if it's deemed safe. So that's peace of mind in itself. But you still have to keep your head up at all times. And, you know, there was one day that there was a lot of smoke in the area, and I didn't rest until I found out it wasn't coming from our fire. Turns out it wasn't. It was coming from a neighboring fire. It's just that the wind had changed and shifted it in our direction, so that was a bit of a relief and gave me peace of mind. Yep.
Yeah, I bet. As soon as you know it's not anywhere near you, you can kind of relax a little bit, right? So, so Stephanie, will you go back?
I will absolutely go back. I enjoy the experience, and I just love the feeling of helping people at their time of need.
In a few minutes, we'll take you to a roundabout in St. John's and hear driving instructor Rudy Singleton explain why he believes the city is moving in the right direction and building more of the circular intersections. Welcome back to Here and Now. As you heard earlier in the show, the City of St. John's has announced plans to build roundabouts at 3 major intersections on Prince Philip Drive, one by the Avalon Mall, one by MUN and the Health Sciences Centre, and another by the Arts and Culture Centre. Here's a closer look at that plan. So some big changes to major intersections that handle heavy traffic every day. But roundabouts can be very intimidating for people who don't know how to use them. I spoke with traffic safety instructor Rudy Singleton about the benefits of roundabouts and what can be done to make them even more simple to use.
Well, what makes them so efficient is that they expedite the flow of traffic, and they're not determined, the flow is not determined by lights, so people can judge, okay, it's good to go, I can go. But there are all kinds of drawbacks to roundabouts unless there are factors that come into play in the introduction of the whole system, such as making them larger, so the speeds can be a little higher. Signage is of paramount importance, okay? And the big one, Carolyn, the big one, as I say, it applies to merging, is education. You can't put this here and very few signs on it and expect people to use it efficiently. And that's the bottom line.
So would that be your advice to the people who will be putting together the 3 new roundabouts on Prince Philip Drive?
Yes, earlier in the conversation before the interview, we spoke about some roundabouts that we've driven on in Nova Scotia and places like that, where people just zipper in. There are no yield signs because the speed is maintained and there's a level of familiarity. And if we use these PSAs and familiarize people and instruct people on how to use them, I'm sure that within 6 months people say, wow, these are the best things ever. I mean, it's aggravating sitting at a light and there's nobody coming in intersecting directions. And then, so what does that lead to? That leads to people blasting away from the light to make up for the time they've lost. You don't have that here at a roundabout. I favour them 100%.
There still are a lot of people who are scared of them, though, and probably will avoid them.
Well, there's going to be a resistance to change no matter what it is, Carolyn, and a lot of people, I suppose, that, you know, there are so many things about traffic already that have changed exponentially over the past few years. For example, the volume of traffic, the speed of traffic. Now to throw in something, a completely new configuration, well, that's another variable and an unknown. So not everybody, I suppose, has the experience that I have in different traffic configurations. But look, if there's education and good signage and the roundabouts are large enough so that people can hold a good speed and can make their exits and entrances efficiently, I think that they're far better than a light-controlled intersection.
With street lights, we see a lot of head-on collisions, we see a lot of T-boning, a lot of serious stuff can happen at an intersection with street lights, but here, things move a lot more slowly.
And more efficiently. Carolyn, accidents, and we call them incidents, by the way, they're not going to be decreased, or they won't diminish until people begin to realize that the level of attention must be increased. Distraction. Okay? And many distractions are brought on by life. We can go beyond the cell phones and the texting and everything. You know, some people have it in here, they're just distracted. But distractions lead to most incidents. So whether you're in a roundabout or at a light, or just a guy that's making a left turn to go into his driveway, if you're not looking, or you're in the car but you're really not in the car or not driving it, you're going to have incidents. So it's all about vigilance. That's what it is. And we're coming into a new environment, well, we've got to adapt because it's going to be part of the future. So, you know, we're either in it or not, and that's the way it moves.
Do you have a rule of thumb that you can say to people who may be a little bit timid to approach a roundabout, something that they should just keep in mind when they're coming upon one of these?
Absolutely. If you're coming into a roundabout, you want to know where you want to go. So you should have some idea whether that's to the left or to the right when you're exiting the roundabout. So when you come in, you pick the lane as you're coming in, like here. This comes into 2 lanes, okay? This branches into 2 lanes. So you select the lane from which you want to exit. Okay? But as we said earlier, if you were coming in here now and you want to go to Cougar helicopter, okay, you could burn a tank of gas going around a circle here looking for a sign, couldn't you? You know, and we'd still be no further ahead. But I'm telling you, if you had signs and people will use them, and in 5 years' time, people will say, wow, how come we didn't think of this 25 years ago?
Why do you think it has taken so long for us to get on board with roundabouts?
Well, there's a resistance to change. I mean, you know, and there are the cost factors, and, you know, studies have to be done, traffic pattern studies, and I'm sure insurance people are in on the whole thing. So it's not just a matter of deciding to do them. It's a very complex undertaking. A lot of agencies have to come on side. And most importantly, you know, you got to look at the people. How are the people going to accept it? And I think that they're being introduced gradually. So that when they put these big ones on Prince Philip Drive, they won't be so big. They'll just be bigger compared to these smaller ones, and they're working.
Well, over coffee and a chat with friends, former Mayor Andy Wells revealed this morning he wants to be back at City Hall. In about 3 minutes, we'll give you a taste of, well, are they the good old days or the bad old days? Anyway, we'll give you a taste of what it was like when he sat on council. Welcome back to Here and Now. It's 2017 and Andy Wells is running to be the mayor of St. John's, something he did 20 years ago.
Yes, Wells was mayor from 1997 through 2008, and he's had no shortage of memorable moments during that time. Here and Now's Ryan Cook takes us through the archives.
Did you tell her to F off?
I can't recall now. I mean, I certainly thought it if I didn't.
He's brash, he's crude, he's never afraid to speak his mind. He is inexplicably and uniquely Andy Wells. With a comeback on the horizon, we dug up a few of Andy Wells' most notable moments. After a near-death experience in 1998, the then St. John's mayor picked up Taekwondo to get in shape. Soon after, CBC's Jim Brown profiled the mayor's martial arts training, giving us this golden video.
I said I'm speaking for myself. Now you're out of order.
Outside the dojo, Wells battled with councillors and mayors, perhaps none more than former Deputy Mayor Shani Duff.
It's interrupting, it's telling people to shut up, it's telling people they're stupid, and sometimes, as the other day, actually being profane and vulgar.
And who can forget this moment?
You made the remark to me that my grave was one of the ones you would like to piss on.
It was in response to your comment.
Wells didn't deny it, and while his words often came back to bite him, he seldom swallowed them or showed remorse. In '94, Wells drew the ire of Danny Williams amid a labor dispute that threatened the St. John's Maple Leafs.
I hope you get the shit beaten out of you. That's exactly what he said to me.
What I did say to him was that it was my personal opinion that it would be in the best interests of the city if he got the shit knocked out of him. He asked me to repeat it, and I repeated it. And then he implied that I was inciting the council workers to be violent against him. That's not what I was saying. From my perspective, whether it was done by a council worker or a councillor or a taxpayer or a little old lady, I still think it would be in the best interest if Andy Wells got a good shit knocking.
Why?
Because he's an ignorant pig.
Andy Wells, rarely politically correct, at times not correct at all, but never boring. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, never boring is right. So far, Andy Wells is up against Danny Breen, who said he's also running for mayor. Still no word yet from Doc O'Keefe, who's the current mayor, whether or not he'll run again.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting election, though. We'll have to see what residents of St. John's have to say on Election Day, and that's on Tuesday, September 26th.
All right. Before we get to the weather, remember those ospreys?
Yes. How are they doing, I wonder? Yeah, this is the camera that Newfoundland Power set up to keep an eye on the ospreys, and it seems like the kids are all grown up.
Yeah, looks like they're still living in Mom's basement there. Mom just can't get rid of them. She'd really like them to get a job, but you know,
And
kids these days.
This is a live shot, just a great little setup they have here. You can check in on them anytime. They look like they're growing quite nicely, having a bit of a feed there.
It's amazing how fast they grow. It seems like yesterday we saw them in, they were unhatched, so.
Yeah, what's that there? We probably don't want to know what they're eating there.
They're
Carolyn,
fish.
look away.
It's a fish. It's a fish. So,
those
yeah,
young stomachs can hardly keep them full. Yeah.
You've got a little one, you know what that's like.
Yeah, Mom must have a full-time job there keeping those two fed. So always great to check in with the Osprey Cam. Okay, so turning our attention to the weather, I'm going to get to, of course, the long range and the weekend, but I just want to start, because 'tis the season, and start in the tropics. Take a look at this system, which you can see there is still on the right hand of your screen. Right now it's an unorganized area of showers and thunderstorms. Those lines, those squiggly lines you see coming out of that low, those are the forecast model plots that are pretty much all wandering that system to the north of the Caribbean as we roll into the late stages of this week and towards the weekend. Once it hits this area, this is where we have the better chance of some development with this system to become a little more organized and a little more structured and perhaps become some kind of a tropical low or tropical storm, or perhaps something even a little bit more than that, and then wander over towards the southeast U.S. by early next week. So nothing to really be concerned about right now, but just letting you know that's one that I'm certainly keeping an eye on and that we may all have to keep an eye on by the time we get to next week. So stay tuned for updates on that. Closer to home right now, we are watching this low, which is slowly but surely trucking in, moving rain across the Maritimes and just pushing up towards the southwest coast. Those periods of rain spread in. Wednesday morning is a wet one. You early chase the ace goers. Definitely you're going to want the rain gear tomorrow morning when you're lined up for tickets, because it is going to be a wet start to the day. As we roll into the afternoon, though, clearing out quite nicely. Sun and cloud on the menu across the island. Some scattered showers building into western parts of Labrador thanks to our next system. In terms of rainfall, in case you missed it, 10 to 20 millimeters is about it from this system. Couple of pockets certainly possible over the Avalon and in the southeast where we could see a little bit more than 20 millimeters. Generally speaking, temperatures are going to be in those low 20s, a little bit cooler thanks to those winds becoming north here in the metro region up towards Bonavista, where I think we top out 17 to 18 degrees. 15 in Labrador City tomorrow, just 12 in Nain, but should be into the high teens, low 20s for most of southeastern Labrador, including Happy Valley Goose Bay. Thursday, this little disturbance, area of trough that's going to be rolling across the island will spark up some isolated shower chances from western Newfoundland into central as we roll through Thursday. Scattered showers are on the menu across much of Labrador on Thursday as well. I think we're going to be seeing some breaks of sun in here. It's not a washout, but certainly those chances are there for pretty much everyone from central Newfoundland to eastern Labrador. The best chance again will be western parts of Labrador, just 13 degrees. Clouds and showers are dominant there. That second area of low pressure will a disturbance, a trough line will be rolling in across the island on Friday. Again, isolated in nature, but the chance for some isolated showers will certainly be on the menu from central Newfoundland towards eastern parts of the island as we roll throughout the day on Friday. And you can see Labrador, more scattered shower chances for you folks as well. The good news, the weekend is looking quiet through Saturday, but I think we will bring in a chance of showers as we roll towards the Sunday time period, and Monday, Tuesday looking a little unsettled as well, but temperatures at least rebounding quite nicely. And in Labrador, again, a little cool in the west, but recovering nicely. Everybody's the pick of the weekend will be Saturday.
Well, time now for our young athlete of the day, and we have a treat tonight. 2 athletes to talk about. First up is a young athlete from Marystown. Faith Legg is 4 years old and loves playing soccer. This is Faith's 3rd season playing, and she can't wait to hit the field each day.
And we also have to say hello to Aiden Young, also a soccer player, but from Paradise. Aiden is turning 4 this month and loves to play soccer with the Paradise Youth Soccer Association. This is his 2nd season playing.
Congratulations, Aiden Young and Faith Legg. You are today's Young Athletes of the Day.
Athletes are changing hotels because a nasty stomach bug has surfaced at the World Athletics Championships in London. That story is coming up.
Welcome back to Here and Now, and as you saw earlier in the show, Perry Trimper was elected Speaker today, beating out fellow Liberal MHA Pam Parsons. Now, he believes that he's the first Labrador MHA to ever get the job. Here's a bit of what he had to say today, including an explanation of why you saw a little earlier in the show that he had to be dragged into his chair.
I'm not sure I saw this coming, but very glad to be here. And I thank you all for your support. I find myself just marveling somehow, how did I end up in this spot right now? I showed up in this great province 1987, 30 years ago, and two guys named Dave Lemon and Steve Fudge gave me a 3-month job opportunity in Labrador. I always used to tease those guys because they never talked about an extension. I ended up staying and embracing this province, and it's been so good to me, and I couldn't be more honored and humbled to be here with you now. I went back to the 14th century, as one needs to do, to understand the role of the speaker. And in those days, the speaker was very much a messenger, and it was a messenger between the news and the monarch. And if that news wasn't so good, it could often mean the end of that speaker's career, both figuratively and physically. So hence the reason why you might want to try to resist, but with the Leader of the Opposition and the Premier, I didn't have much hope there. But I must say, it's fun to see these traditions. I take them very seriously, and I will certainly take this job very seriously. I also understand that, I'm not sure, but I may be, the first speaker was also an MHA representing a district in Labrador. And I see this as a very proud achievement, and one that I want to share with the District Association for Lake Melville. I will continue to be appreciative of their support, and I want to reassure all constituents and the communities of Shasheet, Northwest River, Churchill Falls, Happy Valley Goose Bay, and especially Mud Lake, which has had such a difficult year, that they will remain a priority for me. Labrador has some 6% of the population, but it's got a voice, and it often feels that its voice isn't being heard. I feel that when I entered politics, I wanted to help with that voice, and to be in this esteemed chair and with this responsibility, I feel I can share in that accomplishment with all of Labrador.
Turning now to some national news. A new study suggests action video games could have a negative impact on the brain. Researchers in Montreal found reduced gray matter in the brains of people who played first-person shooter games. As Alison Northcott reports, it could lead to problems like depression and Alzheimer's disease.
Simon Lee has been playing video games since he was 5 years old.
I do play a lot of first-person shooters, and this year I've actually invested a lot of time into the new Battlefield and the new Call of Duty.
A new study published in the journal Molecular Psychiatry looked at how action video games affect the hippocampus, the part of the brain that helps with spatial memory and the ability to remember past events and experiences.
There's the hippocampus, and there we see the region that is lower in terms of gray matter.
The study found some action video game players who navigate games using a certain part of their brain showed a loss of gray matter in the hippocampus compared to a control group playing a different type of game.
What this tells us is that action video games could potentially reduce gray matter in the hippocampus and puts potentially people at risk for problems in the future.
Other studies have shown people with reduced gray matter in that part of their brain are more at risk for problems like PTSD or depression and Alzheimer's disease when they're older.
We don't have a direct link between video game consumption and neuropsychiatric illness. This is something that needs further study.
But some have cast doubt on these types of studies and say the impact video games have on our brains remains unclear.
These studies have very, very small sample sizes. There's probably 100 studies that are experimental studies about kind of trying to correlate something in the brain to something that happens in terms of a video game. And we're coming to a point of I'd say the field's coming to a point of intense skepticism.
Simon Lee says the study won't change his habits.
All these studies don't matter to me because it's something that I like doing.
But the researchers suggest gamers like him play other types of games too because that could help offset the potential damage. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
A nasty stomach bug is making the rounds of the World Track and Field Championships in London. It's had an impact on a number of competitors, including Canadians, and Team Canada is taking precautions. Athletes still arriving in the British capital will be staying at a different hotel. Thomas Daigle has the story.
This is just the latest setback for the Canadians here at the World Athletics Championships. Team Canada's doctor confirming 9 team members. They include athletes and staff have come down with some sort of stomach illness, and Public Health England has confirmed that norovirus has been detected here at the World Athletics Championships. Some of the team members who've become ill not only from Canada but also Germany, Ireland and elsewhere, and the one thing they all have in common is they've all been staying at the same London hotel. Now that hotel has put out a statement to say it is not the source of this illness, but in any case it has affected Canada. Eric Gillis, the Canadian athlete, had to run off the track in the middle of the marathon. He was so ill. And Aaron Brown from Canada also affected by this stomach bug. Canada's doctor saying they are taking remedial steps. They seem to have contained this illness. Here's what he's talking about in terms of these remedial steps now.
You always have to be really diligent about these kind of things and maintain, strict hand washing. And so we're doing our best on that. But I'm really hopeful that we're through the worst of it.
Now, not all of Team Canada has arrived in London. Those coming now will be staying at another hotel. Like I said, just the latest setback after Andre DeGrasse and Derek Drouin, two Canadian stars, had to pull out of these championships because of injury. 2 years ago at the World Championships, Canada got 8 medals in Rio, 6 medals in athletics. It's getting more and more difficult to match those numbers now. Thomas Dagler, CBC News, London.
Food safety inspectors say, as far as they can tell, Canada's ready-to-eat processed meats appear to be safe at the moment. But they say it's impossible to guarantee that safety because inspection practices and tracking are so uneven. The union representing workers at the Canada Food Inspection Agency suggests there's understaffing and no oversight on compliance with rules. The union says some contentious changes that were to be adopted by the agency have been put on hold.
What they do now is piecemeal. It's day by day. As people don't show up, you don't do that work. You don't do a daily visit. You don't. When we talk to our inspectors, we find that frequently they just don't have enough people to do that, so they simply don't do it. It doesn't become part of a routine program, though, because they'll consider it the exception. The exceptions become the norm in CFIA.
A high-profile computer fraud trial is moving forward in Las Vegas. The accused is this man, British cybersecurity researcher Marcus Hutchins. He's charged with creating and distributing software designed to steal banking passwords. You may remember he helped stop the spread of a ransomware attack that crippled computers worldwide. Some of his supporters have set up a crowdfunding page to cover his legal expenses. And here are some beautiful images of the sky over Europe last night, where a partial lunar eclipse was on display. This is Madrid at dusk as the moon rose near the city's 4 towers before hitting peak glow.
And you can see there in Greece, crowds gathered to take in the view at Poseidon Temple. A lunar eclipse occurs when the moon passes behind the Earth and into its shadow from the sun. A total solar eclipse is going to follow in about 2 weeks. back to Here and Now, and just when you thought it was safe to go back into the woods.
Just check out this biblical scale swarm of flying bloodsuckers in Grand Falls, Windsor.
Listen to the sound. Now, that's freaky.
And that's Elmo Hewlett. He seems pretty unfazed by what's swirling all around him during his stroll deep in the woods in Grand Falls, Windsor.
Yes, he must have applied a solid armor of repellent beforehand, something to keep in mind when you go outside this summer. No doubt he got a few of those in his mouth. Ugh.
Ugh. Protein.
Ugh. No.
And I know I showed this picture last night, but in case you missed it, of course, shows what that looks like from afar. Again, this is also from Elmo, and again, it looks like fog from a distance, but obviously not fog. And those flies, they're some thick.
I wonder if that's normal for that area, or is this something out of the ordinary?
Hard to say. I'm sure Elmo and folks in Grand Falls, Windsor would know, but yeah, that is not pretty. The next 3 days, not looking half bad though. I got some sunshine on the menu, temperatures building up into the 20s again for St. John's after a cooler one tomorrow, so we'll keep you posted on the weekend.
Excellent. Nice to see that forecast.
And that's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a great night.
Take care.